Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Ricky Gervais gets his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame today. It is the 2,813th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, 1628 Vine Street. If you want to go, if you're in L.A., why don't you head on over? It's today at 11:30 Pacific. If you're not in L.A., or maybe you're in L.A. and just don't feel like leaving the house, I understand. It'll be streamed live on walkoffame.com. The L.A. Times caught up with Ricky Gervais. He also is playing the Hollywood Bowl on Saturday. Cool place to see Ricky. His last appearance at the Hollywood Bowl in 2023 earned him the Guinness World Record for highest grossing single stand-up performance. The LA Times asked Ricky, hey, you've spent your career pushing comedy boundaries. Has there been a moment where you thought, oh, I'm going to have to defend this one? Ricky said, no, it all comes and goes. It's cyclic. People get nervous, and that's just always been there from day one. People get worried, and then I say, well, this is why it's okay. Sometimes it's an executive producer or a broadcaster who just wants some ammunition to defend it, but sometimes they don't know whether it's okay or not. They just don't want to get complaints. If I can go, okay, listen, this is why it's okay, then they often trust me because I can defend it. It's not me sitting in the room going, what's the most offensive thing I could say to get the BBC burned down? There's always a point to it. Offense comes from people mistaking the subject of a joke with the actual target, and they're not usually the same. Real smart by Ricky there. We're human, so we react to buzzwords and we're cautious of taboo subjects. That's why they're still taboo, because we're cautious of them. I do that on purpose as well, particularly with my stand-up where I talk about contentious issues and taboo subjects, because I do want to take the audience to a place they haven't been before. I do want them to reflect on it, worry about it, think about it, and then I've got to misdirect them. It's like I take them by the hand through a scary forest, but it's okay because they always laugh. If we're going out there and saying things that were really offensive and no one was laughing, well, that would be odd. That's what politicians do. Politicians say awful things and they mean it. And no one laughs. Comedians say things they don't mean. Everyone laughs and they get the same treatment. I don't go out there to try and ruin the audience's evening. I go out there and I make a joke and it's crafted. We're human, though, and we take things personally, but you shouldn't, because I think comedy is at best an intellectual pursuit. You should go, well, that's a bad subject, and I don't agree with the punchline, but does it work comedically? It's a magic trick. It's formula. You can't argue with chemistry. No one goes, well, I know I laugh, but I don't agree with it. Well, it did what it does. That's the joke, and I'm not going to change the joke or the meaning. I think the only form of censorship as an audience is your right not to listen. You just don't have to watch. You can leave, not buy my stuff, not buy my tickets, and that's absolutely fine. You can turn your TV off, but what you can't do is make other people turn their TV off. That's the difference. And then people complain about something you're doing in the privacy of your own home, even though if they have to go up to their attic and stand on a stepladder and look through binoculars to see it, they'll find it. People sometimes seek out the offense, and that's actually where people can get addicted to being offended. They like it. It makes them feel alive. The news even picks it up. They say, oh, fans weren't happy. 3 fans weren't happy. Good stuff. Maybe a little more from that tomorrow. Nick Kroll was on Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. Kroll explained the process of trying to organize John Mulaney's intervention. Kroll said it was so scary and brutal to go through because he was in New York, I was in LA. It was at the height of the pandemic, so it was incredibly stressful to be in the midst of the pandemic, trying to literally coordinate and produce an intervention, bringing a bunch of different people together, friends from college. Kroll's wife was about to give birth, and I was shooting Don't Worry, Darling, which there was no stress there. That was a very controversial filming that I don't have time to get into. You can Google it. Kroll said, then John was running around New York City like a true madman. I was so deeply scared that he was going to die. And I was trying to orchestrate all of this, combining all the elements that go into these things, like the intervention person, where he was going to go, who was going to be at it. You're all of a sudden going back to being like, oh, that's why I've been an inconsistent friend for the last X amount of time. This explains that. And so it gives you both empathy for them and also a tremendous amount of anger because they've been lying to you. Kroll talked about being on the phone with Mulaney and said both of us crying, me just being like, I'm so scared you're going to die. And so I felt him feeling the same way, but also just like, yeah. New York Streets blog's Doug Gordon is mad at John Mulaney. He was commenting on the Mulaney episode from 10 days ago and said if that one was the only episode you'd ever seen, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the show was shot live at a community board meeting in New York City. After all, the conversation, which featured some of the most accomplished people in entertainment, quickly descended into a competition to see who could most gratuitously equate Big Apple bona fides with complaints about all the ways in which bicycles have ruined New York. I'm going to jump in before I get more into this, okay? I'm from New York City. I'm also very, very, very pro-bike lane. Understand that I'm very pro-bike lane. If you want to see bike lanes work, go to Chicago, where bike lanes work. If you want to see where bike lanes work, go to Montreal, where bike lanes work. If you want to see how bike lanes work, go to Vancouver, which even has side streets that are bicycles only. It is fantastic. Love a good bike lane. New York City bike lanes, it don't work at all, especially in Manhattan. Too much chaos doesn't work. They're more often than not protected bike lanes. And when they are protected bike lanes, it pushes out the on-street parking so that if you're driving a car, you have to like creep out through the bike lane and then past where the cars are parked, and you can't even see the oncoming traffic. And then add in Manhattan, pedestrians like me who jaywalk at will, it's complete chaos. Bike lanes in Manhattan do not work. Doug Gordon writes, the stated theme of the program was, is Uber good? Setting aside that the evening's question has been known for more than a decade, it's a resounding no, at least for people who care about congestion, carbon emissions, and public transit ridership. Mulaney barely bothered to engage with Walker, the editor of Torched, a news site focused on the infrastructure changes and policy choices being pursued by Los Angeles as it preps for the 2028 Olympic Games. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, sir. Mulaney's talk show is just chaos, and he can't focus on it. It doesn't work. Respectfully disagree with a friend of the show and the great New York Times writer Jason Zinnemann. Mulaney's show does not work. I'm sorry, it does not work. The topics don't work. I don't know why we are the least bit surprised John Mulaney could not hold a meaningful conversation about Uber. Doug Gordon writes, after Walker offered one reason why Uber is not good, because of the congestion and the undermining of public transit, Mulaney asked Walker how she got to the studio. When she answered that she took the bus and the train, Mulaney seemed positively shocked. This is a dystopian nightmare, he explained. Walker never got a chance to defend the LA Metro. It went downhill from there, from the perspective of public transit. Amy Sedaris and Sigourney Weaver offered pure windshield perspectives. Sedaris, by mentioning that she takes Ubers to visit her godchildren in New Jersey transit-accessible Maplewood, New Jersey, and Sigourney Weaver, emphasizing that she prefers yellow cabs, fine enough. When Natasha Lyonne joined the panel, Mulaney asked her about Uber, but Lyonne turned the conversation where it was perhaps always destined to go, plastering her classic New York accent so thick that she should be forced to go before the city's Landmark Preservation Commission. Lyonne stated, what I don't like is bicycles in New York. I think we need to shut down the bike lanes. That allowed Sigourney Weaver to knock cyclists who don't use the bike lanes anyway. Richard Kind chimed in and said, and get rid of the electric bicycles. They're the worst. They're killers. Fact check from Doug Gordon. They are not killers. Comedy show, guys. Comedy show. Walker suggested the bus should have a lane, the bike should have its own very wide lane, and there should be a wider sidewalk. Natasha Lyonne said, that's insane. It's Manhattan. We don't have the space. Doug Gordon writes, classic windshield perspective. Lyonne clearly was not able to see it's all the Uber Black XLs and Cadillac Escalades, ferrying celebrities and other wealthy New Yorkers that are taking up all the space. Walker gets it and told Doug Gordon, it's a comedy show. I'm not even sure this is truly what any of these people believe. And again, if you want to hit rewind, Johnny Mac said he's very pro-bike lane. They work great in Chicago, Vancouver, Montreal, other places. They don't work in Manhattan. You want my real solution? I have suggested this. Let's take Park Avenue away from the cars and make Park Avenue. And if you've never been to New York, Park Avenue, it has a park down the middle. Very nice. Let's make that bike lanes. And more John Mulaney. He was at an event hosted by Pac. He was asked if he would like to replace Lorne Michaels once Lorne Michaels steps away from SNL. The question, if someday Lorne is hit by a bus and they say, you know, John Mulaney, you have to take over the show. No excuses. What's the first thing you change? Mulaney deflected and said, he's lived in New York for 50 years. You don't think he knows how to dodge a bus? Sheng Wang talked to 27 East and said there's a feature of stand-up that you might not have in other forms of creative expression. There's an audience there in the moment giving you an immediate or direct response. If you're a painter or photographer, you might have a gallery show, but unless you're there with whoever's looking at it, you don't really know how they're responding to it. With stand-up, there's sort of an advantage that levels the playing field, and it's based on some sort of meritocracy. It's a very binary thing. Do they laugh or not? It's an everyday thing. You look at your notes, you try to sit down and write some new ideas, you tinker, it's a craft, and you hone it habitually. Then you go to open mics and test things out. It's like you're working in the lab, making things better. He says growing up, he didn't want to be a comedian. He was doing things like hanging outside, playing basketball with friends, or hanging out at the bayou catching tadpoles. No one was ever like, he's the funniest guy in class. I was never seeking attention in group settings. I was more of a one-on-one friendships kind of guy. He says the most joyful thing is writing a new joke. And from the Hartford Courant, Bob Gale wrote the screenplay for the original Back to the Future films and was a producer of Back to the Future, the animated series in the 90s, plotted the stories for the Back to the Future comic book series, and now works on the Back to the Future musical, which I saw and loved, and it's coming to Hartford, and you should go see it. All right, how did it come about? Gale said, we started the process by saying there are certain things we can do with this material in the theater, and there's certain things we can't do, like we can't have the terrorist chase, but what else could we do? The problem we're solving there is that Doc dying motivates Marty to go back in time. It could be something else, so we made it, spoiler, radiation poisoning. I didn't just ruin the musical for you, trust me. The musical does not contain the film skateboard chase. Having seen the musical, I didn't even notice. Gale said, it's just too dangerous. Marty already has to sing, dance, and be funny. We're going to make him do skateboard stunts too? Instead, we've got to chase through the school lunchroom, which accomplishes the same thing. Gale thinks changing it up a little makes it more fun. I don't want people to say I should have stayed home and watched the movie. Some of the show is completely nuts. He insisted on keeping 4 songs. Johnny Be Good, Earth Angel, Power of Love, and Back in Time. You can't go see Back to the Future without those 4 songs. People would tear up the seats. Back to the Future, the musical at the Bushnell, 166 Capitol Avenue, Hartford. Performances June 4th through the 8th. You should go. It's a lot of fun. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, please tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you would like the program without commercial interruption and without those pesky fee drops, here's how you do it. $5 a month, no commercials, no fee drops. How do you do that, John? All right, go to calaroga.com/plus, or if you're on Apple Podcasts, click the banner that says uninterrupted listening, and you'll get 30 days free. I can only offer the 30 days free on Apple. I can't on the other one. Long story. Trust me, it makes sense. I'm not trying to be annoying. But anyway, one way or the other, you can eventually get the show for $5 a month, commercial free, feed drop free, and it's a great way to support the show. Appreciate it. See you tomorrow.